Right. I'm just staring at this cop like he's not serious. Like, this is a prank. Like, it can't be real. And sure enough, like, my dad starts pulling my arm. He's like, let's get out of here. Like, we're good. I think we're good. And we left, and I was free.
Welcome to the Badass Dad podcast, where we are a band of brothers committed to forging stronger fathers. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode. This is being brought to you by the generous donations of the people who have made contributions at our website, which is BadAssDads.org, BadAssDads.org. You can also find some promotional shirts and other ways to support the podcast as well. But just want to thank you guys so much for your support. Enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Badass Dad podcast, where we are a band of brothers committed to forging stronger fathers. KDH here on the microphone in the IronYetiStudios again. And man, I'm super excited about this. This is going to be fun today. I have my friend Sean Rogers on the microphone. Sean, how you feeling today?
Feeling good, Kev. Good to be here.
Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah.
You know, I noticed you've been avoiding rolling with us recently. So, you know, you haven't really shown up for that.
Yeah.
Are you taking a little hiatus from the jiu-jitsu side of the world or what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, once you stop, it's hard to get going again.
Okay, all right.
And then you guys are always trying to beat me up, and it makes me feel insecure. So. You know what? I don't need that in my life. Thanks, Kevin.
No? All right. Well,
when you guys decide to invite, like, someone I could actually win against, maybe I'll consider coming.
Scott's been training with us, so you could come in and roll with Scott.
Scott still beats me.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
But you have your blue belt now. You should be all right.
Yeah.
Hey, but also excited. So Sean's brother, Chris. So Chris Baker is here. So Chris, how you feeling, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
All right, man.
Super excited to be here.
Good. Well, you know, welcome to Colorado also. And, you know, here we are. We're, you know, at the tail end of May. And to me, like this season coming out of Memorial Day and everything, and just once again, you know, I shared this before, but I am so grateful and thankful for you guys that are in uniform. You know, and Memorial Day just means so much to me and my family. And so thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
On the streets where you are now, and in the green uniform before, you know, serving in the military. So thank you to all you men and women that are out there on that. But, you know, we're going to spend a little bit of time, you know, telling y'all a story today. And, you know, what's the difference in y'all's age?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. Yeah. So you guys grew up, you know, so my boys are 4 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, they're not in the same season of life, but 2 years, you know, you can be in a similar season of life through a lot. And so you guys, I know we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, growing up together and, you know, the two of you against the big bad world and all the other things that are going on and standing back to back to fight against the world. And then, you know, paths, you know, kind of divert. And but now they're coming back together, so I'm really excited to share this, and I really believe this is going to be an incredible encouragement to so many guys. So let's just start with the story. Let's talk about growing up in the wonderful metropolis out there in the California desert.
Yeah, Phelan, California.
Yeah.
So Sean, tell us a little bit about growing out there in Phelan.
Wow, Phelan, Chris still lives in Phelan.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I still live in that place.
Horrible.
So Phelan's just this it's just this tiny little desert town outside of Hesperia and Victorville. And it's really bad. It's so small. And to get anywhere around there, it's like miles of bumpy dirt roads that just destroy your car. And it's the way I remember it, and I don't know if it's still like that, Chris, but I remember it being like it was kind of lawless. Right, because it was so hard for cops to get out there, and it's so hard for people to travel out there, and they just don't want to because it completely destroys your car driving on these like
the washboard
roads. Yeah. And you got miles of that.
Yeah,
and then if you don't know the roads, you'll hit a dip in the road and just completely destroy your car.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you live out there, you know exactly how to drive, and there's two ways to do it: 2 miles an hour.
Okay.
Or 100 miles an hour.
Chris, I have a feeling you're a 100-mile-an-hour guy.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So but that kind of like segregation, you know, from the main roads and stuff, it created like this little lawless area to where we kind of ran it and did whatever we wanted to. Mm-hmm. And so it's a wild experience to grow up in as a kid. First, with not having any parental supervision, but then also not having law enforcement even want to go near you because of where you live. Yeah. They don't want to deal with your BS. They don't want to be part of your little desert drama. So they just leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
So you legitimately just do whatever you want.
Yeah. And we're gonna jump into the story just as kids. So, I want to hear you guys tell it. And I know there's, it's tough because we have similarities. Chris maybe doesn't know quite as much, but there's a lot of similarities in our past where, my mom spent a lot of time, with substance abuse. I got to see a lot of that from a very early age. And, sometimes you can feel like you're the only kid in the world. And then sometimes you're in an environment where it seems like I'm the only kid that, that is not doing some of those things as well. So we're going to spend a little bit of time just talking about what it was like growing up there, in a community, in an environment that, that it's just free reign.
Yeah.
And there's, whatever people are getting a hold of, they're doing, they're taking advantage of stuff. So talk to us a little bit about that, growing up and your parental, lack of parental supervision and how that was.
Right. So, it really started when our mom kept getting into these car accidents. And it was just like one after another. Like I was in 2 that I don't remember. I just woke up in the hospital. But man, I swear every time we got in the car, she was crashing it. Like on the way to school, I don't know if that was later on, but she rolled the car, and then we're coming out and we get T-boned, and then we got head-to-head collision. Well, from before that, I remember things being pretty great. At least, like, we didn't have any money, but things weren't bad. We had Christmas every year at our grandparents' house, and it was like the best time in the world. Huge trees full of presents, like everything felt really great. And then the wheels started to fall off after one of the accidents when she got a back injury, and they put her on opiates.
Okay.
So
and you remember this, Chris?
Yeah.
About how old are you at this time?
Oh man. I was about 6.
Okay.
So he was in a couple accidents where he was sitting in the front seat and somebody crowed across the street and we T-boned him. His face went through the windshield and that's one of the ones he don't remember, but his tooth went through his bottom lip.
That explains why you look the way you look.
Right. I was
nose.
I was super. I was taller.
Yeah,
and like I was 6 feet and just so like strikingly handsome.
Yeah,
and it just collapsed. I think it took out a couple vertebrae when I hit that windshield. But before that, I was a complete stud.
Yeah, Adonis.
Yeah,
love it.
Mr. Statue.
Okay, all right. Sorry, Chris. so you kind of remember this. You're 6 years old. You kind of remember it. Like all of a sudden, mom starts going downhill at this point.
Yeah.
And so, how is that for a 6-year-old? I mean, you're kind of at that point. You're kind of taking care of your little brother at some level, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So there was a few things. So basically, she'd get these guys, that pretty much influenced everything she did. So it was really hard for us because they would come above all, so she would go to the bar, go to wherever, meet somebody, bring them home. Now all of a sudden they're living at her house, they're encouraging her to drink more or whatever. And so at first she was dating this guy and he was drinking quite a bit, so all of a sudden she starts drinking and it's like, okay, well, you see a change, and you're just like, I don't really like the direction this is going, but whatever, And then all of a sudden, the car accident happens. Now all of a sudden she's drinking, and she's drinking a lot, and she's taking the opiates. So now all of a sudden she's just asleep for days and days on end. And so now, me being the older brother, I'm like, I got to step up. Like, I got to take care of 2 kids now, So, yeah, but like Sean was saying before that, like she was a really good mom. We didn't have a lot, but she was a really good mom. She was attentive. She was there. But then all of a sudden it was just like we didn't exist anymore. So she'd bring these people home. She'd meet them at, local drug dealers, or, the bar or whatever. And
when we're talking about meeting dudes, we're not talking about like
stand-up guys.
Like a guy you would even want to go near in today's life. Like these are really, really bad people. And she's finding them under rocks and in the slumps. And and then all of a sudden that's a live-in person in our household now.
Yeah. And how, I mean, you don't have to get all the gory details on, but like, I'm imagining they don't treat you the best.
No.
No.
So we basically just need to stay away.
Yeah.
So, like there was one guy, and I talk about him in the book. I won't say his name, but he would come around, and we'd always try to like connect with him, and we try to talk to him,
Mm-hmm.
and we were always getting ignored, and then they go on dates, and then one day we went to, I don't know if something happened when we walked in, but then the next morning, this guy he took out the entire door on our bedroom and replaced it with like this, like
it was solid
oak wood door
Yeah.
with a deadbolt lock for a front door.
Yeah.
Just to keep us away from them when they were together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, my brother and I years later put two and two together that he was paying for, and that's how she was making her money for drugs and for her addiction.
Yeah.
And so there's characters like that constantly coming around, and, drug addicts. And
he was actually like one of the nicer ones too, though. Like he didn't like us at all. But if we stayed away from him, he wouldn't interact with us at all, So that was okay. We actually didn't mind him too much, But there was a couple, that would come in. Now they want to play dad.
Mm-hmm.
They want to come over, and because by the time, because Sean was still pretty young, and so now I'm in this position where I feel like I've got to protect him. I got to protect him and my sister. With our sister, though, our sister was really attached to my mom's hip, so she was like the couldn't do no wrong kid. Me and him are just like the black sheep, and so me and him, it was like my job, take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I care about. So we would get these people who would come in, and all of a sudden they want to play dad. And then they're coming over and telling us, like, you're not going to talk to your mom like this. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. And then me being who I was, I'm like, I'm not going to stand for that, dude. Let's do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even at like, what would you say? Like 8 and 6, like we were fighting a lot. And so it got to the point where, I felt like I had to make sure that nothing happened to him. That was my main purpose. And so, these people would come in, they would go after him. And it's like my job to make sure they don't get him, So that was like instilled in me, from a really small age. So after that, then it was just like, you couldn't separate him and I. Like we were that's just the way it is now. You mess with him, you mess with me, you mess with me, you mess with him. Nobody's on this planet's ever had my back like he's had.
Wow.
So it's just one of those situations where it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, so you go all the way through like middle school and high school, and I, because I know the story and you talk about it in your book. Well, I definitely want to promote the book as well that you're working on. But you make a decision that you kind of had enough in the house, and so you're going to go try to find your biological father, who's a world away. I mean, you're in California, he's in New York, okay, and so do you also does Chris go with you, or does he?
We took a couple trips together.
Okay,
yeah. So we did a trip to New York at one point.
Yeah.
Okay,
so our whole childhood, our mom would threaten to call our dad on us.
Okay,
and so he was like this boogeyman that was going to come take us away against our will.
Yeah.
And then finally it hit this point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to hedge my bets and say that it can't possibly be worse than what we've been dealing with this past 10 years. So, or however long it was. So, at some point I remember her like threatening to call him, and I was like, do it. Yeah, call him. Because before we would cry and we would be like, no, don't call our dad. Don't have him take us away. And so then finally she was just like, okay, fine, I'll call him. And then she called him and he answered. And then that's how that connection started happening. And then he was like, well, let him come out and visit.
Mm-hmm.
And then so he paid for a plane ticket. We went out and visit. And at that point, I told him, I was like, this is a way better life. Like, I'm not staying in that desert another day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting out of that. I'm done. I cannot live that life anymore.
And I don't want to steal away from the book because I want people to read the story because obviously it's very, very powerful. But tell us a little bit of that story because I think it's incredibly powerful that you're, if I remember, like 14 years old or something like
15,
that. 15 years old. And so, basically you've had enough. Enough is enough. And I need to get out. And you're gonna make that transition out there.
Right.
And so there, I mean, you have to deal with everything. I got to deal with law enforcement. I got to, get a plane. I mean, walk us through a little of that story. And this is a teaser because I do want people to read the book. So,
So basically I knew I had to get back, and that was the life I wanted to live. So the whole time on the plane ride home, I'm just thinking about it. And I know I'm up against like the most manipulative person I've ever experienced in my life. Like, she is not going to just let this happen. And she uses law enforcement to manipulate people. I would run away constantly, and the cops would just come bring me back home. So she had the system down packed. So I knew I was up against it. So I get back, and basically I just start putting together my plan. I was like, I got to figure out how to do it. So, and my dad's telling me, he's like, I can't really help you with this one. Like, you're going to have to make this happen. You're still underage. You have no authority here whatsoever.
And he has no parental rights. So there's not something
none.
that he can really do anyway.
There's nothing he could do.
Yeah.
So it's completely on me.
Yep.
So I get back and I start packing my stuff, and I'm hiding it in my closet, but I'm still leaving my room a mess. So that way she doesn't know that I'm packing my stuff. And I'm just coming up with my plan. I was like, okay, I need a plane ticket. I need X, Y, and Z. And so my dad tells me, he's like, the one thing I do think you need to do is call the police in New York and ask them what you need in order to leave you alone. Otherwise, she's just going to call the cops, and they're just going to bring you right back. And I was like, okay. So I call the cops in Fredonia, New York, and the cop answers the phone. He's like, you would need her to sign over her parental rights to your father if you're going to stay here. Otherwise, you're going to be a runaway, and they're just going to take you back. I was like, oh my God. So it's the biggest hiccup in my plan. My stuff was packed and hidden in the closet. I coordinated with my cousins to let me stay at their place and to pick me up in the middle of the night. And my mom didn't know where I was going to be. Well, that ended up being a whole thing on its own, because she ended up catching wind of where I was staying and like tracking me down.
Yeah.
So I was like on the run from her. But I knew I was up against it with trying to get her to sign that note. There was no way she was going to sign it. So I tried multiple tactics. I wrote out the note exactly like he told me. And I was like, well, what if I get her to sign like a school document, but I cut out the part with the signature, and then she actually signs the form.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried that, and instantly she looked at it and she was like, what is this? And she pulls it out. She starts cussing me out, talking about she will never sign that and it's not going to happen. And she's just losing her mind. So I was like, well, plan B. And I just started poking the bear. And I was like, I hate you. You're the worst. I can't do this anymore. This needs to end. And she's just going through her cycle of losing her mind. She's throwing shoes. She's cussing me out. And then finally I tick her off to the point where she's like, give me that note. That doesn't mean anything. I'll just sign it. And I was like, yes. And so she takes it. She signs it. I said, thank you. And it's funny because it was escalating so high. Like, we're just screaming at each other. It's this like huge breakdown, like emotional fight. And then the minute she signs it, I wipe the tears away. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Bye.
Wow. All right. So hold that thought real quick. So Chris, at this point, Sean's 15, you're 17 years old.
Yeah.
Where are you in all of this? Are you considering going to New York? Or, I mean, because obviously you guys are communicating at some level, right?
Right.
I mean, are you guys still really tight at this point as brothers, or is there already beginning to get a little bit of a gap between the two of you?
There was a little bit of gap, because I knew that this is what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
The only issue that I had is I was absolutely devastated. I was absolutely devastated. So
in what way? Why were you devastated?
Well, just because our entire life has been
together.
Yeah. So when he tells me he wants to go, I'm not stopping him because I know it's probably better. But at the same time, like, I'm destroyed because I don't know what else to do without him around. I'm sitting there going, what do I do now?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm sitting there going, okay, because him and I had a lot had a different aspect on how our life was, I've always admired him for his ability to like go and achieve whatever he wants to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been held back by loyalties or certain things that really shouldn't have existed, but to me they were everything. So like my grandparents, they were the ones that taught me how to, pull wrenches and be a man and everything else. And so I felt like I would be abandoning them,
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, if you want to do this, do it.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I imagine that at some level, when Sean is considering leaving, you feel a little bit abandoned.
Yeah.
You feel the lack of his loyalty to the family.
A little bit. Yeah.
As well.
So
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
But no, that's the thing is like at the time I couldn't understand it. I was still young, so I really couldn't understand how he could just take off. But at the same time, I did understand why he would want to. So, cause I'm like, well, nobody wants to deal with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but at the same time, I'm sitting there going, well, how could you leave me, dude? Like, how could you do that? So I was really like, I don't know if he ever even knew this, but I'm sorry, if he ever knew this, but yeah, the day that he left, I watched him and he packed his bags and he's walking out the door and he's got all his stuff and he's all excited to go. And I'm like, all right, man, and I give him a hug and I love you and all right. And I walked in the house and for the next like 3 days, it was bad. It was like 3 days. I just cried and cried and cried and cried. I'm like, I just felt so empty. Like I didn't know what else to do with my life now. I'm like, I don't get it. You know? So I just went to work.
Yeah. And then Sean, for you, I mean, this is total self-preservation. You're like, I've got to find a way. Yeah. I got to get out. I'm in this hellhole.
Right.
And I know you go through great detail. I mean, in the book, you do a marvelous job of really going through this. And so let's fast forward. So you finally get on the plane.
Yep.
I hesitate because I was like, I don't want to like spoil the book, but there's so many missteps, so many chances for things to go wrong, but you finally get on the plane and you're going to New York, and so you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel,
right?
And then
yeah. So yeah, I feel like I'm so close. When the wheels lifted off the ground, I was like the biggest relief ever. But I also knew my mom, and I knew how skilled she was. I mean, she would use a phone to harass people like I've never seen anywhere in my life. To this day, because she's still alive and she's still doing horrible things. To this day, when this book comes out and when this podcast comes out, and the minute she catches wind of the successes I've had in my life, because I haven't talked to her in like 10 years, I'm nervous about what's to come, because there will be something.
Yeah.
So that's how she is, and so on the plane ride, I'm just like, this isn't over.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I'm trying to enjoy it, but I know it's not over. I know her, and sure enough, the wheels hit the ground. I see my dad, and he's like, cops have been called already. Like, I didn't get that even 1 second
right.
of him just being like, hey, you made it. It was just instantly like, in his face was like, it's over, hopefully you'll enjoy the next couple days of staying here until the next plane ticket back. And he's like, we got to go first stop. So then my gut just wrenches. I'm like, I finally get all this done, and the first stop we have to make is to a police station. So that was devastating. It was like, and you think, well, you're 15 years old, you just got to wait till you're 18, but 3 years in that kind of environment.
Oh man, it's an eternity.
It's an eternity. It's so much that's going to go wrong. I mean, you're constantly in the back of cop cars. You're constantly doing things that's going to get you arrested, like assaults or, fights and assaults are just part of like daily life. Like we were fighting so much and hurting people and being hurt and winning fights, losing fights, destruction of property, just constant. 3 years of that. I'm not going to make it unscathed. Like I will have a criminal record or be in jail or get killed or something's going to, you know what I mean? So we go to the police station and the cop's like, hey man, you're Sean. He's like, your mom's been calling, you got to go. And I was like, oh. And it sunk so deep and so hard. It was like my stomach was just this empty pit, and I felt just destroyed. Like I just could not do that again. I didn't have any more fight left. I was like, I'm just going to accept that this is the life I have to live, and I'm going to go back to the desert and just be that person that she keeps wanting me to pull me back into, and I'm just going to own it. And so I forgot about the note because I assumed that he already knew, or I just didn't really think of the note. And so at the last minute, I'm like, hey, well, what about the note? Like, you guys told me if I had the note. And he's like, what note? And so I hand him the note and he reads it. And sure enough, my mom's just blowing up their phone because that's how she does it. She just calls and calls and calls and harasses and harasses. And she's it's so relentless. And she'll find when you get a little upset, and then boom, now she's got your trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just cranks it.
Yeah.
So the phone rings. He's on the phone. He's like, Jeanette, I'm talking to your son. Like, give me a break. And he's reading the note, and he looks at me, and then he gets on the phone. He's like, did you sign this note giving away custody to Joe? And she was like, yeah, I signed that note. But that note doesn't mean a thing. And he was like, all right, thanks, man. Bye. And hung up on her. And I was like, all right, that's awesome. What does this mean?
Yeah.
And he looks at me, he goes, and he's like, have a good life, kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what did you say? Like, is this real?
Yeah.
Am I good? Am I done? And my dad starts like pulling on my arm, like, let's go.
Get out of here now.
Yeah.
So I'm just changes his mind.
Right. I'm just staring at this cop like he's not serious. Like, this is a prank. Like, it can't be real.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like, my dad starts pulling my arm. He's like, let's get out of here. Like, we're good. I think we're good.
Mm-hmm.
And we left, and I was free.
How was it for you then, Sean, knowing that your brother was, staying back there? I mean, was it just total self-preservation that you're like, I'm not even thinking about that?
I couldn't even think about it.
Okay.
I was like, in my mind, it's like we all had our choices to make.
Yeah.
And that was a choice that he made, and I was out.
Because you guys had a conversation at least going, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Come with me or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because the last time we were in New York, we sat on the front porch drinking bourbon and smoking Dad's cigars.
Yep.
I was 15 and he was 17. And we're just like, oh, this is the life. Like, look at us. We're so fancy.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it. And I told my dad, I was like, I'm coming back. And then, Chris said, he's like, yeah, I'm going to come back too. I was like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he lacks that commitment, but like he was saying, he's so connected to the people. Like, they were his life, his friends, he called his friend's mom because she was the one that looked out for him. So he was he had like a surrogate family with his friends. And then him and my grandma had this connection like I've never seen. So like, I knew he wouldn't break that tie. And for me, I felt no connection besides to my brother, but I didn't think that, in my opinion, the space degraded that connection. So to me, like, I wasn't reliant on the proximity. It was just more reliant on the fact that he's an anchor that I always knew would be there to help me out, and we'd always be there for each other. Like, I didn't see the space as an issue or a change to that.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I didn't see any issues whatsoever. And I didn't even know there was issues from their side. I thought on that, that side of the family, on my mom's side of the family, they would be like proud that I was able to get away. And they were really ticked.
Yeah.
They felt betrayed.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. There's like it's crazy in our family because it's like there's this whole hierarchy system. And I actually met a doctor one time that's writing a book about this kind of system that these families create. And so like there's, you've got basically the king and queen, and then you've got the little soldiers, and then you've got the knights that are going over and taking care of this, and you can't move from this rank to get to that rank and all this other kind of stuff. And once I heard that, I'm like, that is identical. Like, that is exactly what our family did. So instead of being proud of Sean, they were just like, nah, dude, you left us. You left the family.
You're excommunicated.
Right. Exactly.
You're out. Yeah.
And to me, that was wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing. Like, and Sean and I have been talking about this past couple of days is him and I have never really felt like that's our family. Like, I always felt like my grandma, that, like you were saying, like that's my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, we're always just kind of like been the black sheep. We've always been the free thinkers and the whatever. So we're not going out trying to please everybody all the time. So we never really made it up the ranks in that hierarchy, and we just didn't care to. And so, yeah, when he ended up going, everybody's kind of looking at him like, well, except for our grandma, but everybody's kind of looking at him like he deserted us. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Like, you can't blame him for wanting to have a better life. Like, you cannot, blame him for wanting to get out of here.
Yeah.
See, and the problem that we had is a lot of our family didn't realize exactly how much we were going through. You know, our parents were making, our grandparents were making decent money owning a business. But we lived, so from Ontario to Phelan is like 45-minute to an hour drive, and we're up in the desert, they're down in the city. So everybody thinks that we just got this made life, you know. But when in actuality, they didn't realize that our mom was spending all our money on drugs and alcohol and boyfriends and everything else. So they were kind of looking at us like, why would you even go out there? This guy did this and this guy did that and da-da-da-da-da, talking about our dad. And it wasn't until we went out there. And just to come back real quick, when he was talking about being on the front porch and we were talking about going, you know, and I was like, I'll come too. At the time, I honestly meant that. But the stipulation is I'm going to wait until my grandparents are not here anymore. And then I'll go because they're literally like my only tie left here now. And I feel like I got to be loyal to them. So at the time I had every intention of going, but they didn't end up passing away until years and years and years later. So, and then we had already had a falling out, not him and I, but me and our dad. So we'd had this falling out and like it wasn't I didn't see that ever getting fixed. So then it just kind of went to the wayside.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So the question that I'm going to ask you in just a second is going to deal with, you know, what do you think would have happened had Sean stayed? Okay. In Phelan. So, because, you know, I'm going to fast forward through the story a little bit. You know, Sean, you eventually join the military, become a Green Beret. You're the elite of the elite here, you know, doing an amazing job. Go on after your military career, get into law enforcement, which is where you are now, you know, once again, being a leader and doing this. So, you know, you took this incredibly checkered past, an environment that you're growing up in, and you literally make a 180 and go the opposite direction. And so, you know, and yet you see your brother who you do love, even though there may be some, you know, some tensions and frustrations and anger or whatever there, but you see him stay. And so, you know, Chris, from your perspective, if Sean would have stayed in that environment, what do you think would have happened over those next few years? I mean, I know it's speculation now, but
yeah. So in all honesty, if Sean would have stayed, so Sean and I were on very different paths, you know. So I was more concerned about following the family business and doing all this other kind of stuff. Sean was kind of like just wanted to, you know, do the right thing, but do whatever he wanted to do. You know, he was kind of on his own little thing. He just wanted to do good. So in all honesty, I don't believe that if Sean would have stayed, he would be as successful as he is now. He absolutely made the right choice by getting away from that situation. So I don't know that he would have made it out without, like he was saying, like a criminal record or something, because it's way too easy to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's way too easy to do. And for a long time, like, we didn't even realize that we were breaking any laws or doing anything wrong because of the lifestyle.
Yeah.
It was just needed it. You know, it was necessary. So yeah, if he would have stayed, he definitely, I don't think that he would have made the same choices or been the same person. And it absolutely worked out for the best.
Yeah. So Sean, for you, I mean, you know, here you are, you're pursuing your career. You're, you know, once again, serving the country, Green Beret, all these amazing things. And I have to believe there's some level of communication that you guys are having throughout this time. And you're getting to hear that here Chris is, you know, he's talking about being in a punk rock band and, you know, some of the things that could go along with that. And so the drugs and the alcohol and all the other stuff. What are some of the emotions that you're feeling during that season? You know, when you're pursuing, you know, over here, you know, I hate to use this term, but kind of like you're taking the righteous path, but you're seeing your brother take a different path. So what's going on inside of you? Is it?
It's tough, right? Because you see the potential, but then you see what that desert environment, that lifestyle is doing to all that potential, and you're just watching it go away, or be used for the wrong things, you know. And it's hard to watch. So as I was growing and learning how to because doing the right thing for me, like that 180 was extremely challenging. Like I got in my own way so often that that's how kind of the book came about, was the process of getting out of my own way and realizing how to utilize my past to promote my future and to make me a better person instead of running away from it constantly. So the more I grew and the more I realized like how people could use their past, the more I looked at what Chris was doing and realized that he was trying to beat his past away from him and to win against his past. And so I just see him in this constant cycle of failing at that. So therefore he feels like his life is failing. So then it becomes this like self-fulfilling prophecy. And then all of a sudden it's, going to prison and jail.
It was jail.
Jail. So he went to jail and, all these crazy things are happening in jail. And it's almost like in jail, he has these like experiences that were like expectations of what he would be and who he's going to be in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary because to me, jail and the way he had that experience is almost like the way the desert is, to where it's like, if you're going to be here, these are the expectations and this is the lifestyle that you're going to live. So it's super hard to watch because I was, struggling to make amends with my past and then use that in like a positive direction. Then I could just see him having the same issues, because the struggles were exactly the same between both of us. We had the same childhood traumas, and we're just both dealing with those exact same traumas in the opposite ways. And so it was hard to watch because I know what he's going through.
Right.
But every time we talk, it's about how those traumas are beating him, and how he's becoming victim to those traumas. So it was literally the polar opposites, and I'm getting kicked down by our traumas too. It's constantly. I mean, the only reason I joined the military was because I was trying to be a firefighter, and in school, I get in a fight with this guy and I break his nose. And the next day I went into the recruiter's office and I was like, I have to stop. I'm ruining everything and I cannot stop. And I thought maybe the military would force me to stop. And that was the struggles I was going through, which are, it's the same things that he was dealing with.
Well, and for you, like all of us have this in our DNA that, there are things that we want to improve. I mean, it could be something as silly and as stupid as getting in better shape. And that, there's something in our DNA that just goes, but I want chocolate cake.
Right.
And then, you go back to the chocolate cake a couple of times and you go, well, this is just who I am.
Right.
Exactly. I grew up eating chocolate cake. This is just it. So I'm
not going to stop.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop. So, and so, for Chris, he got caught up in the cycle of where he was, and really got sucked into that vortex of, man, this is our life, and it perpetuates itself. You have found a way to escape that, and you find some a different life. You see it more than just on TV. I mean, when you're in the picture, you don't know what the frame looks like.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, yeah.
And so all of a sudden you're starting to see these things. And then, I know from the heart, what you share with me, Sean, is that, your heart would break for your brother, but at the same time you're like, but I can't jump in the water with him because I will drown too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And making that decision is incredibly tough because you do, I mean, and I don't know if I'm sure you have felt it, Chris, but I mean, your brother loves you so much, but it was so hard for him to separate himself from that season because, he wants to be in there, but he knows if he jumps in the water.
Yeah, we're both drowning.
You both drown.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's something I've literally, and I was telling him this the other night, that I honestly respect him and his decision for how he's improved his life and done everything and didn't go down that path so much that I literally can't feel an ounce of anything negative for it, because it's like, I'm so insanely proud of him.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
I can't even explain it.
That's
I'm
awesome.
so proud of him.
That's
well,
awesome.
and kind of what he's talking about is he was having a moment where with the drug addiction, and he called me and he said, dude, I need to get out of here, and I'm struggling with addiction and all these things are going bad. And he said, can I stay with you? And he had just had an incident happen where he went to jail and all this stuff. And I told him no. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, because there were so many times when we were growing up that I called him for help and he said yes. And then here I am, he's calling me for help and I'm having to tell him no. And I told him, I was like, I can't put my family in that position when you're in the position you're in. I'm not going to bring a drug addict into my house, even though you're my brother and I love you. And it killed me to tell him no. But, and then all of a sudden I'm just waiting for that relationship to just be destroyed. And then I get a call and he's sober and he's thanking me for telling him no. And it was like, okay, I didn't see that coming. But then now, 9 months later on his road to sobriety, we have this gun business and, all these different aspects that we're pursuing. My wife and I are pursuing real estate and the book and all these other, and, the gun business is on the side. And it's like, you know what? You know how to run the CNC machine that we have. You know how to run a business. You've been doing this for a long time. Why don't you, here's an opportunity. Instead of, here's a room and, spoon feeding some help. How about I just give you an opportunity to make something on your own, and I'm not helping you. I gave you the opportunity and it's there, and that's my way of giving back. Because two things are going to happen. He's going to take the opportunity and run with it, and then see that his own potential is, and then just go and do his own thing or make that his thing and grow from that. And he could start seeing the side of that I've been trying to work on for the, past however many years. Or it just becomes another idea that falls by the wayside and it doesn't get acted upon, and it just is stagnant. But that's kind of how I want to give back, is like, I'll provide an opportunity, but I'm not making it easy, and I'm not giving anything.
Yeah. And so, Sean, I see the emotion that's connected with you even to this day, this time period that's gone through, and enough of my story that there's plenty of overlap between us. And, I remember more than a few occasions that, I'd be telling my grandmother that she shouldn't bail my mom out of, whatever shit she got herself into. Right. And then after my grandmother passed away, then I was, to take that mantle. And in the times that I had to say no, it's so easy to talk about tough love and right. We're on the whiteboard, we're writing it up and go, this is how you handle it. But even in the midst of that, I would be done. I'd hang up the phone and it would still crush me to know that I have some resources that, yes, could help, but knowing that if I gave the resources here, whether it was money, place to stay, or whatever, that it was literally just going to perpetuate that. But it still hurts.
Still so painful.
It is.
Yeah. It's the last thing you want to do to the person that you care about. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, for you, Chris, when you're reaching out, and you're like, I'm drowning here, and Sean says, not right now. I mean, and I'm going to put words in his mouth here. He's saying, get your shit together, and then okay, there's got to be a level that hurts, because you're going like, well, if I could get my shit together, then I would be asking for help. But in that in that moment, once you're able to let the emotions subside a little bit, then you start seeing a glimmer of hope. Yeah.
Oh, so in all honesty, I never really had that. I never really had that resentful kind of emotion. When he said no, the only thing I felt, because it's literally so hard for me to ask anybody for help.
Yeah.
So when he said no, it immediately clicked in my head. I really messed up. I really messed up. So I had no outward feelings really towards anybody or anything. I was looking all internally. Like that moment, we're on the phone and I'm bawling and I'm like, I cannot believe that I just messed up so horribly that my brother won't take me in. So I really had no ill feelings at all. And I'm really glad he did it now because it forced me. It was like, you know what? Okay, now I got to fix this because like I never thought I'd ever be in a position to where he wouldn't want me around. And so I'm like, and then I'm like, I got my daughter and I've got all this stuff, you know, and I'm like, what am I doing? So when he said no, it was literally the biggest reality check I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm like, wow, he's not wrong. He's right. He's doing the right thing. I would do the same thing. So what am I doing? And so I just was like, nope, book a flight. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And so that day, it was that afternoon, I got a flight lined up and a place to go. And I ended up going out to Florida. And on my birthday is when I left. August 7th is when I went out there and went there. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I just got to get it done because, you know, I mean, I never, like, I was always the one that worked really hard, made sure that, you know, he was taken care of, my sister was taken care of. And when I turned 18, you know, I fell off a little bit. Then I came back and I started doing the right thing. I had a family. I was doing pretty good. And then a series of circumstances just cut me off the kneecaps. And I just fell. I fell bad.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, so as soon as I found out, like, when he told me that, I wasn't mad. I wasn't resentful, nothing. It was just like, wow, what have I done? You know? And so I was like, I got to fix it.
Well, you know, the image that I was just feeling was, you know, imagine if we have a sphere, so we have a ball here, and you know, when two paths diverge, they seem to go in opposite directions. You know, it would feel like you guys are just completely doing the opposite things. You know, you're pursuing this career, Sean, and Chris is pursuing this one. But with the ball, understanding that, man, if we go around, you know, the outside of the circumference of that ball, we're actually going to end up, you know, in a place together. And the willingness to be able to hang in there together, it doesn't look the same for everyone. It doesn't look like, you know, I'm going to be a yes guy and you're going to continue to, you know, whether be a victim or make poor choices. You know, you're going to have to pick up, you know, you're going to have to drag your own little red wagon and put your stuff in there, but I'm going to be here and I'm going to continue to pursue. And so, you know, I want to honor you, first of all, Chris, by just saying, hey, congratulations, man, to be willing to fight the battle with opioids, with, you know, with the past, with all those demons, with, you know, the environment that you guys came from, being cut off at the knees, you know, like you said. It's so easy just to give up. It's so easy to tap out. I mean, you know, Sean has a great experience in tapping, but just on the jiu-jitsu mats. I'm just kidding.
That was rough.
But you know what? In the reality is there's nothing wrong with tapping. But man, you got to get back in and get back in the fight. And man, to see that you're bootstrapping yourself right now and getting back in the fight. I just want to honor you and let you know, man, good job and stay in the fight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And Sean, for you, you know, the mental fortitude and the toughness that it takes to stay the course, to be able to, you know, in the midst of all the pain and the frustration and everything else, and to be able to have the vision to go, I'm going to go this other direction. Even though there's no example really for me to follow there. But I say there's examples, but there's not as intimate of examples of where you grew up, and to continue to do it and to be able to have those tough conversations and to know that, hey, I'm going to go and become a firefighter. And then crap, you know, I broke this dude's nose. And where did that really come from? It came from the anger issues that I probably had from, you know, where I grew up with. And this is how I learned how to handle situations. You pivot, get into the military, make some adjustments there. And so it's a constant adjustments. And so, you know, I'm so excited about the book. You know, I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about, I don't know, it's probably, I'll say the key concept that I really walk away from your book, which is, you know, dealing with the dragons. Okay. I was about to say demons, but you use dragons as your analogy in the book. And, you know, how people look at dragons and what they think they can do, and then how you're able to use and harness the energy from the dragon to be able to have some success. So let's spend a few minutes just talking about that if we could.
Yeah. So that's been one of the biggest learning points through all this is and the analogy I use is like it's the dragon. But what people fail to understand is that the more trauma you've been through, the bigger and more ferocious and extreme and brutal your dragon is. Well, that dragon is so powerful. It's the most powerful being that you have connected to you. But then the problem is how we deal with our dragon is dictates if we're going to use it or if it's going to just destroy us. So kind of what I saw my brother doing is, like I said, he would try to beat it. And you just want to beat it and then think and walk away. You think you slayed your dragon, and then you walk away thinking you're going to be free from it. And then you turn around, and he's right back there. And all of a sudden you feel victim to it. Like you just cannot get rid of it. Like no matter how hard you attack it, you wake up in the next morning and he's breathing over your face, just waiting to burn the path down in front of you and ruin all your chances.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's what I did, and there's running away from it. So I was so scared of my dragon, of this white trash kid that getting in trouble, that I have no filter, I have no knowledge. I was extremely uneducated because I never paid attention to school ever. And I just cheated my way through. I didn't know. And so I'm so ashamed of this person, this kid, this person that's in me, my dragon, that I ran and I ran and I ran. And I would run by doing things that I thought people would feel were impressive. So I'm uneducated, so I'll get a degree. So I got an associate's degree. I got a bachelor's degree. I'm almost finished with my master's degree. I thought successful people ran marathons. So I ran marathons. I ran ultra marathons. I thought successful people would make special forces, and those guys were elite. So if I could do that, I will obtain a level of success that would prove that I lost my dragon and he's no longer behind me. And every time I succeeded at one of these things, I turn around and he was still there. I drive to work and you're in a road rage incident cussing someone out. Well, you're supposed to be the successful person that is college educated. You have a Green Beret. You have all these things. And here you are not even able to control your emotions on your drive to work.
Mm.
So you turn around and boom, he's right there still in your face. So you fail. He failed at killing it. I failed at running away from it. So then finally, in recent years, I've realized that the way to win is to tame it. It's going to be there, and you should be proud of how big it is and how aggressive it is. But you have to tame it, and you have to use it not to burn down the bridges you want to cross on its own, but you use it to burn down the obstacles that get in your way. And you always find, like Chris now, he's like, well, maybe he feels like he's beating himself up because he's been to jail and he's had a drug addiction, when in reality, his dragon is just more powerful than most people because of those experiences. So now if we could just learn to tame that
Mm-hmm.
and use it, everything about you that's ugly is what makes you so powerful. It's what makes us have the drive, the determination. So
Yeah. Well, that is so good. And, Trent Williams, just a couple episodes ago, he talked about the same thing in his battle with PTSD and, literally having his loaded handgun in one hand and a picture of his daughter in the other, and how he's been able to harness that to now set world records and, the weighted dips. And I love that you have had the experience on both sides where, you've seen your brother try to, fight against and to, kill the dragon. You talked about running away and even hiding from the dragon, but it just somehow it just sniffs you out.
right.
But, I just imagine that, because I got two boys, they've loved the shows, how to tame your dragon,
Right.
or how to train your dragon. Sorry, that's
Right.
what it was. And so,
They're learning practical skills.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm just imagining you, here, realizing that here this dragon has just immense power and energy, and you're now using it to impact people's lives, whether it's, writing books, success in the marketplace, continuing to be a police officer. And so I want you to understand that you are really living and setting an example, an inspiring example of peak performance in all areas of your life. And one of the greatest beneficiaries of that is going to be your brother, whom I know you love dearly. And so he's going to be able to see that. Now, with all that being said,
Mm-hmm.
what he chooses to do with that is going to be up to him.
Right.
Okay. You don't get the opportunity to train his dragon.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's where some of us that are maybe, caretakers, whatever, we can take it on ourselves and go, man, I got to, I've got to tame his dragon for him. But you don't get that opportunity. And, I think for you, Chris, is for you to understand that your past is your past and that you now get the choice of what you're going to do with it. Listen, God can't even change your past. Okay. Hate to tell you that. That book is written. Okay. and so you're either going to use your past as a hammer that you're going to continue to hit yourself over the head with, or you're going to use it as an inspiration going, never again will I allow myself to go in this direction. I'm going to learn. And the reality is there's going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Oh yeah.
2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And it's gonna be like, crap, man, I thought I had learned this lesson. I thought I had learned how to do this. And, but it's your willingness once again to get back up, take another step, and to continue to pursue it. So, man, you got a hell of a road in front of you. You got a great example here. And, I think Sean will be the first one to tell you that, he still has to fight with his dragon. He still has to every once in a while just kind of grab that thing and just, manhandle it.
Right.
But together, man, what a powerful example. And I want you to know there's going to be some guys, they're going to listen to this. Guys are listening to this all over the world, but there's going to be some guys that are going to listen to this that have been, the brother that, that made some missteps and made some poor choices, got in, in trouble on the wrong side of the law, drug addiction, did some things. And then there's, and so they're going to be able to relate to this story. There's going to be some that kind of, took the righteous path or whatever. And they're going to learn and they're going to be able to see that, if you guys, if Sean and Chris can reunite and connect and be together, here we could do it too.
Yeah. Amen.
And you guys going to be, just the impact that you guys are going to be able to have is going to be second to none. And so, where you guys decide to go with this from here is going to be up to you. But, I'm super excited for you and thank you for your willingness, your vulnerability. Cause so mmany of us have hidden from our past and not used it as a great lesson to be able to share with others. But let's wrap it up with this. You got your business and everything as well. But if people do want to connect with you guys, man, if someone wants to reach out and say, man, I'm heading down this path, how do I get out? Chris, what would be a way? Is there an email address or some way that people can connect with you or social media or something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. Email would be cgbaker.
Okay.
1226 at Gmail.
Okay. And we'll include this in the show notes also. So we'll have that as well there. Okay. So that way, people are going down that path and man, cause one of the best ways, to deal with your dragons is to help other people deal with theirs.
Yeah,
too.
no, absolutely.
Yeah,
no, I totally understand that.
Yeah. So
it's way easier to help somebody deal with theirs instead of trying to take their own.
Dude, I heard that. Oh man. Sean, what about you? If some people want to connect with you,
do the Instagram thing. I'm actually getting pretty savvy with that. Thanks to the wife.
Good.
The wife showed me how to do it.
Oh, come on now. Dude, like I feel Steven over there just like glaring at me going, Kevin, you need to do that. Where are we at with the book?
So, got about the second draft knocked out. Got to make a couple edits after talking to Chris. There were some things that he remembered a lot more detail than I did. And kind of unsurprisingly were far worse than I remembered it and had expected. So yeah, just make a couple edits. And then at this point, we just got to get it to the editor. And then once the editor's done, start doing the cover design, pick a name, things like that, and then get it off and running.
So do you have a working title that you're kind of trying to? No. Okay.
No. I kind of want to get feedback once, from other people on that. We'll see. That's something I probably got to spend a lot of time to think about because I think the title is going to be, it's got to fit, and it's got to be right, and that's something I don't want to rush. So, no title yet. Okay, we'll work on that.
Well, I think I've told you this several times, but I always enjoy our time together, whether it is time Jameson induced or not.
Next time we'll get back on the
Jamo. You and I and Devin, getting to hang out here recently.
Oh yeah, I love it.
But I love your hunger, your thirst for growth. It's just such a pleasure, and I'm excited about some of the things that we have in store to be able to work on together. So
absolutely,
yeah. Well, hey guys, I want to encourage you. Please subscribe to the podcast. follow these guys. If you want to connect, man, if you're dealing with some PTSD, some past issues as well. This didn't directly come up, but man, you got to find some guys to connect with. Find your band of brothers, because to walk this alone in isolation just really leads to destruction. And so I would encourage you to connect as well. You can get all of our information as well if you want to send us some messages or connect. And man, this is going to be a great year. It really is. I know we're kind of coming out of the COVID-19, blah, 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 blah. Right. But beaches are open, and we're going to be able to get back out there and have a fantastic summer. This is a season that we're going to look back, and this is either going to be a time that we're going to look back and go, man, we just barely survived, or, we ruined our life during this, or we use this as a springboard to go to the next level. And I hope we do that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, have a badass day and be a badass dad. And we are out. Hey guys, I want to thank you guys again just for listening to this episode of Badass Dads. Hey, if you found this episode helpful, if it's beneficial, if it's shareable, man, we'd love for you to pass it on to someone. Previous episodes you can check out on our podcast page, on iTunes, on Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, check out our website, BadAssDads.org. That's BadAssDads.org. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram pages. So please, love the support. Check all that out. Let's get this movement going. And we are committed to forging stronger fathers. Be a part of the movement. We're out.